censorship is incredibly harmful to equity. In the context of censoring facts and history regarding a specific group of people based on race from educational material. Take this quote from Aaron Blakemore, who won the Colorado Book Award for Nonfiction in 2011, for example. The Jim Crow-era South was a particular hotbed for book censorship. The United Daughters of the Confederacy made several successful attempts to ban school textbooks that did not offer a sympathetic view of the South's loss in the Civil War. There were also attempts to ban The Rabbit's Wedding, a 1954 children's book by Garth Williams that depicted a white rabbit marrying a black rabbit, because opponents felt it encouraged interracial relationships. Well, it may sound funny to ban a book because it has a white rabbit marrying a black rabbit. It shows some censorship was designed to keep the races separated. It is undeniable that the censorship was intended to promote the same inequities that the Jim Crow era sought to preserve and had successfully done in the past. Another historical example that proves that censorship has caused inequity in the past is Nazi Germany in 1933, when censorship peaked during the organized burning of books and art. Negative propaganda depicting Jewish and other people the Nazi Party considered undesirable took the place of factual historical texts. It caused support for the concepts of the superiority of the master race that the Nazis were trying to instill. The unacceptable and intolerable atrocities that were carried out primarily against the Jewish people during the Holocaust is a grim example of the effect limiting knowledge has had. Unfortunately, censorship in education is not a thing of the past. In states such as Florida, the current textbooks have been redacted to soften or even misrepresent historical truths. Outrageous content replaces the factually correct content removed by censors, teaching United States history students that slavery was a system that, while terrible for many reasons, personally benefited the enslaved by providing them with job skills. Surely, the enslaved would have preferred job skill training that did not include being owned by another man. Equally certain is the reasoning that the enslaved would prefer to have no job training at all if job training must include being forced to work for free and being beaten for disobedience. Banning books based on content robs learners of the chance to have other outlooks and denies them exposure to experiences different from their own. Education is meant to expose learners to new and different ideas, not limit their materials based on any group advocating for a specific view. Censorship, as reflected in the Education in the Age of Censorship article, demonstrates why the sanitation of history deprives students of the building blocks of the past. Censorship also opens the door for false narratives that could lead to ignorance, inequality, and misinformation. Here is a short clip from ABC News covering this topic.
At 6 now, more fallout from Florida's newly adopted education standards for African American history. They include teaching students how some slaves benefited from the skills they learned while enslaved. I-Team investigator Katie LaGrone spent the day tracking the latest backlash, the state's response, and one lawmaker's call for Florida's education boss to step down.
He is not going to rewrite and redefine Black history, not while we're still alive.
Outrage continued Monday over Florida's new standards for teaching Black history.
It's insulting, it's demeaning, it should not exist.
The social studies curriculum approved by Florida's Board of Education last week was created for middle schoolers across the state. And while the new guidelines include teaching some of the harsh conditions slaves lived through, it also includes instruction on how slaves developed skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit.
And it's insulting.
Educational censorship regarding a specific group of people based on race is incredibly harmful to equity, as has been demonstrated historically and is taking place right now. Students deprived of factually correct information regarding slavery and racism in America will naturally fail to understand that descendants of former slaves are current victims of inequity because of Jim Crow laws and other legislation designed to oppress this section of society was ongoing long after the 13th and 14th Amendments were passed. An equally harmful result of racial censorship is the inevitable acceptance of false narratives that take the place of historically accurate information. If we do not know where we have been, how will we, as a society, know where we are headed? The limitless scope of misinformation that will fill the void of censored material should be alarming and hair-raising.